Elena Danaan was abducted by grey aliens when she was 9 years old, and in the midst of the abduction, after she had been subjected to some medical experimentation and an implant was inserted, she was rescued by the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And ever since, she has been in contact with the Galactic Federation and other civilizations that are benign and trying to assist humanity awaken to the truth about our greater cosmic reality. She's the author of several best-selling books. She is also preparing some new books, and she's here today on Exopolitics Today to tell us about some of the perennial issues confronting extraterrestrial contact and the new projects that she's working on.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome back, Elena, to Exopolitics Today. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Michael. I'm very happy to be back.
Well, it's always wonderful to have you on the show. I mean, you have such a wealth of information that we can barely cover it in the span of one show. But this Starliner incident that recently happened, that there was a sound that the astronauts detected coming from the Starliner that was docked next to the International Space Station, and the Starliner is scheduled to leave in another couple of days, and the astronauts that were supposed to be on the Starliner are now stranded on the IS because the Starliner is unreliable, that they're having some technical problems with it. So it's just going to return unoccupied. But the astronauts that were now on the ISS, they detected a sound. So what we're going to do now is just play that sound. And Elena, then I'd like you to comment and tell us what you think or what you were told that sound is.
Yeah, I'll do it one more time and I'll let y'all scratch your heads and see if you can figure out what's going on. Here we go. All right, over to you. Tell us if you figure it out.
Right, well, that is the sound that we just heard. And so, Elena, what were you told about that sound?
Well, as soon as that came up, I asked Thorhan Eredion, my contact in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and he replied to me shortly. He said he wasn't involved in this operation, but he knows that some engineers are part of a program in the Federation to broadcast this type of sounds to part of the plan of disclosure. And he said to me, this is the sound of the torsion field of the core engine of a spaceship class 4. So I said, what is a spaceship class 4? And he said, these are the spaceships that are driven by organic consciousness. He says, such as the spaceships from the Intergalactic Confederation, or the Cedars, or arks. So when he said that, it just hit me because I had an experience with that as well, that same sound. If you want me to talk about it or
Sure, because I think that's important that it was identified to be connected with this Intergalactic Confederation and space arks, because JP, when he heard the sound, he said that that was what he heard when he was inside of the ark. So, yeah, tell us what your personal experience is.
Well, I went to Japan in May 2024, a few months ago, and actually before the news came out about the Starliner, I had recorded my Star Nation news that went on a few days later, and in which I recount this story. We were driving on the slopes of Mount Fuji, at the feet of Mount Fuji, to go to a village, and as soon as we approached the mountain, after a bend, I suddenly felt this pulse in my head and in my whole body, and it was the same frequency, hum, 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 whom it was a pulse, and it was coming from inside of the mountain. And my first reaction is that that's the pulse of something that is alive, and that's a spaceship. And in my head, it was an ark. It was an ark that was in the Mount Fuji. And as I was thinking about that, we just passed by a military base with a lot of military trucks that we passed. So I went, that's funny. There's a military base there. Usually when there's an ark, there's military base. So that was the same pulse. And it was an ark that was activated and broadcasting a pulse. So when I realized that the Starliner was this noise was the same pulse, I went, that was the pulse of an ark, and as Thorhan confirmed.
That's very interesting. Now, JP says that when he was in the ark, that he noticed something like veins in the ark's structure that was transmitting a fluid. I think it was a blue fluid from memory, and so and this crystal jewel that was returned to the ark to activate it would somehow activate this network of what seemed to be veins going through the ark, and the organic consciousness driving all of that. So is this kind of this is analogous to like a heartbeat, a human heartbeat?
Yes, and what's interesting, so it's not the heartbeat of the creature, the biological creature. It's the heartbeat of the core engine, and as Thorhan said it rightly, it's the sound of the pulse of the torsion field of the core engine of a ship inhabited by organic consciousness. And of what I know is that for an organic consciousness, like our soul, to inhabit a support, be it a human body or a creature body or even a ship, a vessel, let us say, you need a pulse, you need a frequency, you need a heartbeat. So that's what we are hearing. The heartbeat, that is a pulsation of the core engine, doubled with the frequency of the living being that is in it.
It's very interesting because I know David Adair says that when he found that craft, extraterrestrial craft, buried under Area 51 that was like 100 million years old, that it was actually the engine, and the engine had the organic consciousness. Now, I can't remember him describing a kind of pulse, but he said that he first recognized that organic consciousness, he communicated with it. He was told that its name is Pithalum, and then it downloaded itself into him, and then the engine went dead.
That's it. The pulse stopped. Yes, it's like a human body. As long as the heartbeat is going, the soul, the consciousness remains in the body. But at the moment the heartbeat stops, just the consciousness just goes away, is detached from the...
Mm-hmm. So the astronauts on the ISS, they said that sound was coming through the speakers on the Starliner aircraft, or the Starliner spacecraft. So was this pulse being transmitted electronically by the Intergalactic Confederation, or was there something else going on?
Well, I think it's something else going on. Thorhan said that some engineers, part of the disclosure program, that broadcasted this particular frequency to go through the Starliner communications. And Thorhan explained to me that they are doing this more and more, broadcasting signals and voices through not mainstream media, but communications, videos and stuff like that. It's part of also the disclosure plan. So that's what they were doing. And it's not by random choice that they chose this particular pulse, because it's the pulse of an ark, the heartbeat of an organic ark. And that means that something is going to come up. There are revelations coming about the arks more and more.
Yeah, because this was big news. I mean, millions of people around the world heard this and are trying to understand what in the world is going on here. So this could be part of a disclosure plan. And
Yes.
and of course, you described or were told by Thorhan in January of 2023 about a disclosure plan, and you mentioned that this is part of that. So is this plan that the Galactic Federation gave to the Earth Alliance, or to, in this case, it was General Glenn Van Herk, who was head of US Northern Command. So this plan is still in place, and according to Thorhan, what we witnessed with the Starliner is part of that?
Yes, it is part of the plan. And as he told me as well, that NASA is going to debunk it very quickly. Well, that happened, of course. And it was a little pathetic, to my opinion, because NASA said, oh, it was interference between two different communication, and that happens. We know very well what it is, and that happens very often when we communicate with space. Well, if they knew that, that it happens very often, you need to listen to the conversation again between Houston and the guy in the Starliner, because nobody had a clue at all of what it was. And the guy say, well, I don't know what it is. I'm going to transmit that to the team, and they're going to study it. So it's a bit contradictory, and it's interesting.
Yeah, rather pathetic how NASA does that. That's something that people see or people hear, and then they try to debunk it using, some kind of nonsensical, inconsistent claims. But a lot of people buy it. But nevertheless, it seems that this is just part of what we've known for a long time. There are those that want this information to come out, the White Hats or the Earth Alliance, and then those that try to stop it at every step of the way.
Yes, and that's a big point that is very crucial about the disclosure plan and the unfolding of it, the implementation of this plan, especially on the time factor, when this will happen. Thorhan, my contact, has been very clear with this, especially recently. He said that the plan is going well, but when we talk about the question of time, it's fluctuant. If they they allow catastrophic disclosure, as we say, catastrophic, not in the negative term, of course. People misunderstand sometimes catastrophic, I mean brutal. This it will be okay for the masses. Everyone is waiting for that, but because the deep state is still in place, there are still people in power that are working in the deep state. If that happens like this, the deep state still in power will hijack this catastrophic disclosure, twist it around at their own benefit to discredit it, and everything will be aborted. It will fail, and they will counter-react by, and Thorhan named it, they say they may even put the Operation Fake Alien Invasion or Salvation, and actually those are, I suspect, both on the same plan, invasion, salvation, and they can do a lot of harm to the disclosure plan. So he said there will be a catastrophic disclosure. There will, but not for the moment. They're waiting that more of the deep state collapses and fall out of power. And in the same time, they have been keeping on implementing a program that had started at the end of the 1940s. And this program is a program of infiltration of all these organizations belonging to the deep state, to collapse it from the inside. So that's very interesting.
Now, you have mentioned in the past that there were a number, I think you actually mentioned 4 Intergalactic Confederation motherships, or maybe just motherships in general, that were coming towards or were now in Earth orbit. So are they still there? What are they doing? And I mean, are they waiting for this kind of deep state collapse to come? What are they doing?
So these 4 motherships arrived in orbit of Earth. They were detached from the big fleet that is in the vicinity of Jupiter. They are not here just to watch. They are here to be part of the disclosure plan and also helping people on Earth awaken. They have spiritual task as well as disclosure plan, which they are part of. On the spiritual level, they are broadcasting frequencies to awaken and activate star seeds that are on Earth that belong to their to other galaxies, to the Intergalactic Confederation that are part of this program. That these people awake and wake up at their turn more people. They are also broadcasting this frequency to awaken the pulse signal, the frequency signature of their kind. And this pulse is activating the arks that are buried under the oceans and under the mountains. So that this as well. Also, they are sending ships and orbs to show themselves more and more to the people, for people to get used to extraterrestrial presence. So that's all the things they are doing.
So this pulse signal that the motherships are transmitting, that we now heard on the Starliner, is that being transmitted electromagnetically, or is there some other communication modality that's being used?
I wouldn't know the details, but it was an electromagnetic pulse, so that at least could interfere with the radio communications, I suppose.
Okay. So I want to shift to something that I've come across again and again in some of the interviews that I've been doing, and also the webinars that I've done. And I first heard about this from a Dr. Peter Beda, who in the 1970s talked about robotoids. And he described these robotoids as really being synthetic humans that were being created and could be that could replace normal humans or infiltrate our society. And so, this raises the question, are there cloned or synthetic Nordic-looking ETs that are walking amongst us, that have infiltrated our society?
So I would say yes, and I would explain why and how. The cloning technologies was something that the Greys mastered, and in the exchange programs that they install with the Majestic 12 first, and then the other governments on Earth. There was this treaty in 1955 with the Majestic 12, with the Orion Grey Empire and their allies. They have been given facilities underground, military bases, and they taught the military how to clone and how to create androids, I would say, or I don't know how we can call them, humanoids that are not biological entities. So, there are, when we come to talk about Nordic aliens, there are so many different races of humanoids who look tall, pale, and blonde, and all have different agendas, all come from different origins. So you have, for instance, you have the Alpha Centaurians, who are biological humans, who are boots on the ground, working with the US Navy since the end of the 1940s. You have the Pleiadian, the Ahil Pleiadian from Taygeta. You have the Tau Cetian. This one have reddish, more red hair. You have a different type of Nordic aliens. And then all have good agendas. You might as well. But then you have had the Altair tall blondes, the Alcyone tall blondes, who collaborated with the Dark Fleet and the Fourth Reich in Antarctica. So they were tall blondes. They were from the Pleiades, but they were not the good ones, They were from a star system, Alcyone, that sided with the Siccar Empire, the Reptilian Empire. So you have different factions. When you say tall Nordics or tall blondes, you need to know who you're talking about. There are good people and bad people. And then you have synthetics. Who are in synthetics? They are made by the Greys in underground bases to look like the good Nordics and infiltrate human societies and try to infiltrate also the good Nordic societies, but that's not really working well because they have a way to detect them. But infiltrating Earth and pretending that they are the good guys to deceive people, that has happened. So they truly exist. They are synthetics. It's not biological body, and they have most of the time artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of like follow up on that. Well, the picture you see up there is a very famous one. That's the one of the two kind of Nordic-looking beings that appeared on a ship that Travis Walton says he was taken on, and that first he saw these grey extraterrestrials and he kind of panicked, and then these beings walked in. So you would, and they kind of calmed him down and everything. So clearly there's a relationship between the Greys and the Nordics. Now, who created? Well, yeah. So the Greys and the Nordics. So let's look at that relationship. These synthetic Nordics. Now, I just started listening to Luis Elizondo's new book, Imminent, and he talks in there. He raises these theories that the Nordic extraterrestrials created the Greys, and that the Greys are like automatons. But your information, or what you've been told, is the reverse, something else.
Yes. And Greys are a species. They are species, different even species. You have reptiloid Greys, you have insectoid Greys, you have humanoid Greys, like the Emerther from Tau Ceti. But Greys haven't been created by anyone. They are just an occurrence in the universe, like humans, So, and you have positive, civilizations of Greys, notably the individuated or individual consciousness Greys, who are not part of a hive. These ones, many of them are good societies, like the Emerther, Tau Ceti, which I named. You have also a faction of the Solipsirae from Cygnus, who have never really interfered on Earth, but you have another faction of them that has been assimilated. But you find different cultures. So nobody created them. Nobody created them, but you can call them the bad Greys, the Orion group, and the Alliance of the Six, who includes Zeta Reticuli as well. They created synthetics and cloned even themselves. They have been playing with genetics of different species in the universe. They are master of slave trade, of human trade, or creatures, or anyone trade. They mix species, they create hybrids. That's what they do, and they enforce their ranks. People think about the Borgs in Star Trek, for those who are Trekkies in your audience. That's totally the Borgs. You want to think about the Greys, it's the Borgs.
Okay, so the Greys are a distinct species. I know the literature, people have talked about the Greys being humanity in the future, that genetically they kind of devolved. But I mean, I know what's your view about that idea that the Greys are us from the future, as opposed to them being a distinct life form that have evolved naturally in the universe, and some have a part of a kind of hive mind mentality, and other Greys, like you mentioned, the Emerthers, are individuated. So can you explain all of that?
Well, we are you from the future is recurrent psychological operation that the Greys have been using to conquer worlds, to get the inhabitants of a world to consent to be invaded, to consent to give their genetics and be abducted. And they did that on Earth, and they did that everywhere. It's a lie. It's a lie, Michael. It's for two reasons. First, we have been dealing with an intelligence, a form of intelligence that is not human and that computes about 1,000 times faster than a human brain, because they are a hive. They are all interconnected in their mind. And they are, and when you put above that an agenda of deception, you have no chance. And secondly, they are hive mind consciousness, and humans are individuated consciousness. An individuated consciousness cannot become a hive consciousness, and vice versa. Biologically as well, they are Greys, and humans are humans. It's two different genomes. They have 4 fingers at one hand like this, and humans have 5 fingers. That's a genetic signature. They're different. So there cannot be an evolution of humans in the future, okay? They try to create that. They try to interbreed with humans. They manage to create hybrids, but these hybrids, they will never be humans of the future, because humans are humans, and the future of Earth is human. So that's a big, big strategic lie that they have been serving people.
Well, what role did the Draco reptilians play in creating these Nordic clones that have infiltrated human society, and especially now that the Draco have left, or their fleets have left, or many of them have left, but they've left behind these synthetics to kind of infiltrate and destabilize. So yeah, what's the relationship between the Draco and these kind of Nordic clones, or these synthetic Nordic beings that are here on Earth?
Yes, so the Draco have been part of these operations. These clones or synthetics have a programming that they will apply until their life is over, and they will do that mechanically, and nothing will be able to stop them. The reptilians, so Sika reptilians, are also skilled in these genetic operations, but not as much as the Greys. The Sika reptilian, the Sika Empire from Alpha Draconis and nearby star systems, was a competitor to the Orion Greys, named the Nebu. Nebu means dominion, okay? But when the Greys wanted to invade Earth, they actually invaded us in 1955 officially, they create this alliance with the reptilians. It was an alliance of interest that would split profit, and they would work together for certain purposes. So it was the alliance of the 6. There were other species involved. It's now dismantled. So they shared technology, they shared agendas, and that's how the Sika reptilians became better at creating these clones. Something we must know as well is the reptilians have shape-shifting abilities. So they can shape-shift into tall blondes. You can imagine you are in contact with tall blonde ETs, but after a while you see slit pupils or something weird happening. They are shapeshifters. So that was also a way to deceive humans when they were there.
So it's kind of very confusing and very scary, really, when you think about it, that walking amongst us today, you can have either these cloned Nordic-looking beings that have been created, whether by the different ETs, or whether or by kind of human groups, or you could have these synthetic Nordic-looking beings, and then you have the genuine ones. So how do you tell the difference?
The genuine ones will never come to you and manifest to you and ask you things. The fake ones, or the synthetics, or the hybrids, will always, if they are nefarious, if they have a nefarious programming, they'll be known to you. They will try to go public and work for discrediting the truth, or they will also attack certain people and pretending that they are nice and good, and approach people and make friendly, and then by behind try to destroy the key position persons. That's what they do. The negative ones will come and play around with you. The good people stay behind in the disclosure plan, and they don't interfere with human because of the prime directive as well.
So that kind of like raises even more kind of like complex, or kind of like very concerning issues. So that means that there are people that are on the internet now that believe they're in touch with these Nordic beings, from wherever, but in fact they're in touch with these synthetics or these clone Nordics, and they're putting out disinformation. So they're part of a program without knowing it. And I guess so. That becomes very confusing, and I can understand how that would destabilize a society, because then it's like you don't know who's who.
That's what they do. They collapse societies by the inside, by infiltration. That's what they do. That's what they have been doing. That's what caused the collapse of ancient civilizations as well on Earth. That's what they do. But now their masters, their controllers have gone. The ETs have gone. The gray hive has been dismantled. The Sika reptilians have been kicked out from the star system, and they're taking really a beating at the moment in the galaxy. So these are programmed people that are just repeating a programming. But I would say they are not that harmful. They are harmful as much as you give them power, if you know what I mean. You really use discernment, and I have tips myself that I can use. Is when someone is deceived by a pretended Nordic extraterrestrial contact, they often will it will often people want to do channeling, and so they will, when you want so desperately do that, you open your defenses, and any entity can connect with you, telepathically. So you put your defenses down. There are tips like ask them if they want something from you. They want you to make a deal, they want you to pass message or agenda that is a bit weird, feel the frequency, and also ask them where they come from, the name of the star system, the name of their race and culture. Arcturian, Pleiadian, it's not enough for me. Arcturus is a star system. So what's the name of your star? How do you call your star? How do you call your race? How do you call your culture? How do you call your planet? I told people to ask these questions, but they never get any answer from it. Why? Because the entity, the other side of the line, just doesn't know. They don't know, because they are not this culture. So it's very easy. Ask questions. Do you want something from me? And if the entity wants really desperately to do contact all the time, I'm going to do downloads to you, and they eat up your energy, and they use you to so you feel the frequency and use your discernment. And,
What about the heart vibration or some kind of trying to detect the soul quality? Some people
yes,
have said that you look in their eyes and these
yes,
clones or synthetics, you don't see a soul. They're
yes,
soulless.
exactly. The eyes tell you everything. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, with some of these ETs, they impersonate gods, and of course, we know all about gods in our society, in terms of history, and so Yahweh and Enlil, and of course Allah, and all of these other gods. Now, what is the relationship between these supposed all-powerful gods in different religions and these extraterrestrials imitating gods? Or is it just a matter that all these ETs are imitating gods in the past, and they're back again and they're trying to do the same thing?
Well, you have two types of extraterrestrials. Those who played gods in order to pass on to implement their agendas and control humanity. They wanted to be adored like gods, that people kneel in front of them. And through to this day, they have been playing this, talking about the Enlil faction. And you have the other kind of extraterrestrials. And these ones are trying so hard to convince humanity they are not gods. They are not angels. They're not gods. They are people, beings, maybe sometimes looking different, coming from somewhere else, but same as the humans. They are not God. Please don't worship us. Please don't kneel in front of us. We are not better. We're just different, And take Ea or Enki, for instance. He was remembered in Mesopotamia as a god, but he never wanted to be considered as such. So that's another example. You have had illustrious extraterrestrials in the past that who did maybe positive actions, and people were so in awe that they elected them at the status of gods to remember them as such. They were coming from the sky, so they were forcibly gods, But some of them, like Enki, he never wanted to be, worshipped. He's all about empowering humanity, So there are these two types. And let's talk about Yahweh, and Lil usurpated the name of Yahweh to assert his power and be, the almighty tyrant, bloodthirsty. And when you read the description of Yahweh in the ancient scriptures, it's a psychopath. It's a bloodthirsty psychopath, So you say, yeah, something's wrong, right?
Yeah, well, definitely psychopathic, schizophrenic. I mean, you just have to look at Abraham sacrificing his child Isaac. That on the one hand, it's like, yeah, sacrifice to show your loyalty to me and fidelity. And then at the last minute, it's like, okay, no, don't do it. And it's like, well, is that the one being, or are we talking two beings? Are we talking one that's the psychopath and the other one that's actually truly connected with something more benign?
Oh yeah, he asked for, Yahweh was asking, it's in the scriptures, asking for children, mass children sacrifices, and also to be given virgin girls. That has been still going on through to this day, These despicable people have been still practicing this.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm kind of interested in getting your perspective on these so-called ET gods, the demiurge, Yahweh, Enlil, and this universal fractal consciousness, that there's this universal consciousness that we're a fractal of. So how do you tell the difference between those two experiences?
When So under the name, the word gods, you have also two different categories. You have these ETs playing gods to scare humanity and bind them to their power. Okay. But you have also ancient societies, people who were looking at the night sky and the universe and their environment, not able to explain the wind, the sunlight, the tides, So they imagined that these were gods. They created imaginary gods to personify the wind, the rain, etc. That's nice. That's cultural. It doesn't harm. So that's something aside. But now that's a pagan religions, and that's something new, sacred and ancient. But then beside that, you have these extraterrestrial playing gods, and these ones would ask humanity to certainly not remember who they are and their own power. They will tell humans that they are less than nothing, that they are filled with sins, that they need to worship them in fear and bow and kneel and obey and fear God, fear, etc. Because they've been working so hard, and they've even created very mainstream religious institution, If they didn't do that, humans would have discovered very quickly that they don't need any gods. That gods is something, it's an illusion, it's a man-made, man-created concept, or extraterrestrial, or anyway, it's a created concept used in different purpose. Humans, when they step aside the adoration of any god or gods, they realize that they don't need any priest, any religion, because they are a fractal of God, source consciousness. Not God, I would say creator, source consciousness. So how does this work? You have a global consciousness that is a source of consciousness and of all life, that can be called source or creator source. And that is living through its creation, experiencing the evolution of its own consciousness through its creation. So it's going to fractal itself in an infinity of little offshoots of it, and project these fractals of itself into biological vessels, or even anything that has a magnetic field. It can be planets, also stars, and anything that is alive, any vessel that has a magnetic field. And so when you are a human being and you are self-aware, and you know that your consciousness is a fractal of creator source, that you are made of the same substance, then you realize what your power is. You realize that this consciousness that is yours has the same properties as creator source, because it's the same thing. So you can also co-create reality with the power of your consciousness. And that is something that the evil ones, the evil controllers on Earth, have been trying to block. They're maintaining people in ignorance and in fear of imaginary gods. And that's the difference. There is an extraordinary man who was an envoy on Earth, Yeshua or Isa or Jesus. He was there to wake up people and counter at the very birthplace of the cult of Yahweh. He was there to wake up people, tell people, stop adoring this false god. He's not the creator father. He's not. But he said something that is really important. He said, you are made at the image of creator. Yes, you are. Not the bodies, guys. The soul, the consciousness. And once you know that, nobody can have a power on you. So that's the difference between the true human nature, the conscious nature of consciousness, and being aware of who we are as a living being. And it is playing false gods to maintain us in ignorance and in order to enslave us.
Jesus or Yeshua, that he in fact talked against or spoke against this Yahweh that was this kind of tyrannical being, but instead he worshipped some kind of universal spirit that he called Father or Abba, and that this was something that I think is more in alignment with the theory of emanations that comes from the Platonic philosophy. Plotinus was one of those that was advocating the theory of emanations, that you have this pure idea of the good, and then that kind of like manifests in lesser or in lower realms of creation, and then eventually you get our creation. And Plotinus was teaching about this idea of the good and connect with that, and he was totally ignoring the Greek pantheon of gods. And of course that got him into that got Socrates into a lot of trouble. He actually was killed because of that. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of literature supporting exactly what you said.
Yes, and Akhenaton, Pharaoh Akhenaton in Egypt, he did the same. He said, stop worshipping. He knew exactly what was going on, especially the god Amun, who was Marduk. He tried to tell everyone, stop, stop, stop. These are fakes. These are idols. There is one true creator, and it animates all life. And you are animated by it as well. It has no name. If you want to put a name, it's the solar disk, the Eton. And if you want to look at what he looks like, well, look at the sun, because its light comes through the sun. And there are many historical characters who try to guide humanity. It never ended well for them, but they left a legacy, and that's what's important.
Now, I want to go to this issue or claims that there are some grey human hybrids that are actually friendly to humanity, that the grey human hybrids, and one particular group that's mentioned is the Essassani, that there's actually different factions of the Essassani. One faction is aligned with the grey agenda, that they just work with the greys. They're part of the kind of like the hive mind of the greys. And then there's another group of the Essassani who are a splinter group, and that they were able to break away from this grey collective, and they are genuinely trying to help humanity and trying to help other greys to awaken and to kind of like become individuated. So what do you think of that? Are there good factions of the Essassani, good factions of the Greys that we can trust or are reliable?
Well, coming from this highly deceiving intelligence, I would trust nothing. In my records of what I was told, explained, and it's already in my 2020 book, A Gift from the Stars, I was already talking about that. Essassani means cross-breeding, literally hybrids. It's a name to name this category. So it's not a culture, it's not a race, it means hybrid. So it can be any kind of hybrids, To me, it's impossible to break away from a hive. A hive consciousness. There's a queen, and she sends electrical signals, thought signals to all the other individuals of the hive. Okay. If an individual gets cut off from the hive, it is lost and it dies because they are not wired to be individuated. You have hive consciousnesses and you have humans who are individuated consciousness. Nowhere in nature, look on Earth at the ants and the bees, for instance, who are insectoid hive consciousness, like the greys. Most of the greys are reptilians. Reptilians do that as well. So a hive consciousness, look at the ants of the bees. No one in nature it occurs that suddenly a group of bees talk together and we're going to break away from the hive and leave the hive and even turn against the hive. It doesn't happen because as soon as an individual is separated from the hive, cuts the contact with the queen, they die because they do not have an individuated consciousness. They die. So I do not believe that, and it's not occurring, that a group of greys can suddenly decide for themselves to separate from the hive, even if they are hybrids, It's impossible. So I think this is, again, a high deception to pass to humanity, to promote the grey hybridization agenda and promote the return of the greys, promote the worship of the hybrids, and they are using people, deceiving them. And I think I've heard about the assassin. It's quite a big thing, there are people who are used to promote their agendas. And the way they use people, it's quite horrible. They use, because they have been breeding hybrids since 1955. Millions of people have been taken as breeders, mostly women, but men as well, to take their sperm. They would take some of the breeders, mothers or fathers, and they would take them back on board a ship and they would present them with one of their babies, hybrids, to create an emotional bond, And this bond would be something that be so strong that the mother or the father would crave to have the baby. But that's what the greys would tell them. Oh, you cannot have it. No, you cannot have it. It's impossible to have it, to have your baby. You need to promote the agenda of the greys, that the hybrids needs to be welcome on Earth. You need to tell the Earthlings that they need to welcome all the hybrids from their own consent, and then you can have your baby. That's what they do. And they will manipulate these people also for different purpose. We'll give you your child if you do that for us, or we are nice with you, we are very kind, so we are going to help you develop this project, or we're going to guide you. And they're so deceiving, and this is horrible. They do not have empathy. And they, I'm very sorry for these people who are victim of these manipulations.
You're not saying all greys are evil and they're part of this collective mindset. No. Because there are some, like the Emerthas, that are individuated and they're very positive and they're trying to help. But the greys that are part of this collective mindset, that have been doing these abductions on Earth, or that have worked with reptilians and kind of like cloning different human-looking beings to infiltrate, that they operate under a clone, or they operate under a collective, and that members of that collective who claim to be breaking away, that it actually is very, very unlikely. What's more likely is that this is a deception.
They're very good in deception. They're very good on manipulating human brain, human mind. They can put images in your head of, false screen memory or things like this. They're very good at that. Yeah.
So again, how would you tell the difference between one of these grey human hybrids, or one of these greys that are claiming to have broken away from the collective and they're here to help? How would you tell the difference between one of them as opposed to, say, one of the Emertha?
The Prime Directive. It's as simple as that. All the greys or hybrids who claim to be good and help humanity and promote agendas and use people to be the ambassadors on Earth to promote the greys this and the greys that, talking with greys, channeling greys, working with greys. These are not the good guys. For the good greys would never do that. They are also request by the Galactic Federation of Worlds not to interfere in human affairs, not to also confuse people, are you a bad grey, are you a good grey? They step back. But there are greys, such as the Emerthers, for instance, who are human greys. They are the only greys who have they have a Caucasian little nose. They have a human face but they're greys with big eyes, but they have a nose. The other greys, they have either no nose or even 2 holes. The good greys, they would be part of programs of scientific cooperation. They would make really scarce, rare, particular contacts that are part of the disclosure plan. They would contact specific people, but they would be very discreet. They would never go mainstream on social medias, would take someone to channel them and become famous or pass agendas or etc. The good greys are most of the time individuated, because when you are individuated, you don't really have less chance to be part of an agenda like a hive is. You have your own consciousness. So that's the difference, I would say.
So just to kind of bring that out a little more, the Emerthers recognize or abide by the Prime Directive, which is that you don't do anything to violate a person's free will. So they will always ask permission. If they make contact, they will ask permission. Do you want to come on my ship? Would you like to have this drink? They ask permission. Whereas the greys that are part of this kind of collective, that are working for nefarious purposes, they come in and they abduct people, they subject them to medical experiments, extract genetic material, and then they use these kind of very sophistical arguments saying, well, actually, what we did was we're just following we have a soul contract with you, or your subconscious desire was for us to abduct you so that you can be awakened, and then all of these innate abilities within you can come online. So this was a pre-soul agreement or a pre-birth agreement. So what do you say to that?
This is all letter B, letter S. Because yes, I promised myself not to swear like a French person in interviews now, so that's what I think of it. Anyways, I would say this is all manipulation. The thing you named, it's absolutely not true.
Okay. Because I know there's a lot of people, a lot of research that will say, well, look at all of the kind of like intuitive and psychic abilities people have developed after being abducted and being subjected to this. And, we're creating a kind of new human race, Homo noeticus or something like that. So you would say that it's kind of like almost like the fruit of the poison tree doctrine, where if something is poisoned, when you're violating a person's free will, regardless of any gifts or any abilities that come online, that's all compromised because right away you've broken the Prime Directive.
Yes, that's it. That's what it is. The Prime Directive is not something legal created by a federation. It is an application of a cosmic law, the cosmic law of evolution. Okay, you will allow a child to make their own mistake and find solutions themselves, for the child to grow up, to mature and become intelligent and responsible. So that's what they do with civilizations. The greys, they don't do that. They abduct people. They don't care. I have been an abductee when I was 9 years old. And nobody will make me believe that beings able to do to a little girl what they have done to me are good people that later will say, oh, but we are going to activate your whatever, your awakening, or your DNA. We are going to do this and that for you. We are your friends. We are going to teach you stuff. In the first place, if they had abducted you against your will and consent, period, that's the bottom line. That shows you who they are. They are not respecting the laws of evolution. They are not respecting your sovereignty, your individual rights. So don't make me believe that these people are friends of humanity.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that is an important distinction between, how do you tell the difference between positive and negative extraterrestrials? The positives will always ask for permission, whereas the negatives will just do whatever they want to do to you. So, right there, you can tell the difference. Because I know some ETs have a real capacity to be able to create bliss in people, or make them feel good or loved, but that is also part of a negative agenda. And this takes us back to the whole God's question. So maybe you want to talk about that. I mean, if you encounter one of these ETs who bliss you out, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Look at the actions. Look at the agendas. What do they want something from you? Did they respect your free will? Did they respect your consent? Were they nice with you? Did they take something from you? Did they take something from you, or do they use you for something also to their benefit? You're bringing an important point, Michael, and it may scare people, but that's the truth, and we need to talk about these things. There are hybrid Nordics that have been engineered by Greys or reptilians. There are shape-shifted reptilians looking like Nordics. There are Nordic alien-looking clones and synthetics made by the Greys. And the technology that is behind is able to trigger in your mind to fall in love with them, to feel good with them. And usually it's women, they trigger them to fall in love with them. If you give your consent, they can access your mind. They have been it's highly advanced civilization, highly advanced intelligence. People have tendency to forget about that. You can't beat them at mind games. You can't, okay? So, and they will take something from you. So that's how you can't rely on your emotions, but you can rely on your discernment. Do they want something from you? And look at their actions, what they are doing to you, and are they using you? That's the thing. Are they breaking the prime directive? Are they breaking the law of evolution? That's what I would look.
There's a very interesting sci-fi series called V.
Oh yes.
And in that movie, you have the head of these kind of like reptilians disguised to look like humans. The head of that, Anna, she has this ability to create bliss, and this bliss that she creates kind of like overwhelms people in her. Both the reptilians and the humans to kind of slavishly follow her. So is this the kind of ability some of these ETs masquerading as gods have? This ability to generate bliss. And so how do you deal with that? How do you survive that?
Reptilians, you have reptilian Greys as well, but it's a reptilian thing. They have the power to do that with their mind. Okay, so they will project a thought into your mind. It's quite invasively, and it will trigger a part of your mind that will create this bliss or this, brain fog. But Grace can do brain fog as well. And how do you deal with that? It's very difficult because you need to resist and you need to work your discernment. The discernment, the actions need to fight the feelings. It is beaming into my room, or I'm beamed, abducted on board a ship, and I don't know these ETs. They are new to me. They look either ways, gray, human, reptilians. But admittedly, I can admit they look humans. They look good. They look nice. They are very seducing. How will you discern if you start to feel this bliss and feel well and feel, oh my God, he or she is so good looking, I'm falling in love, I'm having desire for this ET. That's something, it's a bit weird, but that happens. Work your discernment. Hey, wait a minute, I've just been abducted against my will. Who are these people? What do they want from me? I need to fight these emotions. Are they mine? I don't know. So I need to work my discernment. Ask them what they want from me. Do they want something from me? Fight your emotions to work your cold, analytic mind and try to learn what they want and who they are. Fight your emotions.
So that's really developing emotional intelligence. So I know there's a book by Dan Goldman called Emotional Intelligence, and he defined emotional intelligence by the ability to be able to be aware, to manage, and to integrate emotions. So if you're in the presence of a powerful being projecting bliss, and that kind of is overwhelming, if you've got high emotional intelligence, you can recognize that, oh, okay, I'm feeling really good about this person, but I need to keep my critical faculties online. I need to be able to manage the emotions, the feelings, and to integrate those, but that you still are totally aware at all times of who you are, as opposed to like just being blissed out and manipulated by these beings.
Yes, exactly. They know exactly how human brain functions, so they are going to use it at the maximum.
Okay. Well, this raises a very interesting question, something I hadn't thought of before, and I'd love to have your kind of thoughts on this. And that is, I always assumed catastrophic disclosure, just everything coming out at once would be a good thing. Like the deep state's been holding everything back, like let the truth out, and that would be a good thing. Mm-hmm. But now I'm wondering, given the complexity of what really is going on with all these different ET groups that have infiltrated us, and given our level of technological development, given our level of kind of like emotional intelligence and discernment as a species, wouldn't it be better to kind of like that disclosure, that there needs to be like we need to find the Goldilocks region of disclosure? If we go too far too quickly, then people will have no ability to be able to discern manipulative ETs they're interacting with. Or if we go too slowly, then nothing happens and everything gets dragged out. So is there a Goldilocks zone for disclosure, for full disclosure?
The thing is, so of what I understand is that humanity is ready, for civilian contact. The thing is that the deep state has still power and is still manipulating people. They can also use all these synthetics we've been talking about. So as long as all of this is possible, disclosure is going to be held back regarding civilian first contact. The plan is still unfolding besides that by different agendas, showing spaceships in the sky, infiltrating the dark organizations, bringing more whistleblowers forward. But that's keeping going on. But they are holding back the civilian contact because if that was happening now, for instance, the deep state will intervene and hijack it, and everything would fail. So they're waiting. I would say the Goldilocks zone would be when the deep state loses enough power that if a catastrophic disclosure comes in the matter of first civilian contact, the deep state cannot anymore intervene. They cannot implement any, blue beam or alien invasion agenda. So we need to wait for this. Not to wait, but everybody must remain active. I mean, saying no to manipulation, no to division, stop buying into the division agendas, the woke agendas and all the things like this. And also stop consenting to anything that comes from your government that are engineered by fear and, obliging you to do things by fear. That's the way they manipulate people. If people stop buying into all this, the deep state is losing power very quickly, very quickly. But what they are fearing is that people stop arguing and unite, So I would say, what I'm told is that it's meant to happen. It should have started in 2024. It has started, but I mean, about civilian contact. But it's, postponed 2025. There isn't a fixed date. It's depending on humanity. You cannot give a fixed date because history fluctuates. It goes forward. We know where we're going towards a wonderful future. But when things are done, it's fluctuating. You take, I don't know if you see my hands. Okay. The timeline is like this. We are going there. Okay. We are going there, but we're not going like this, that we can say there's fixed date here, fixed date here, fixed date here. We are going like this, the movement. So we're going there, but it's fluctuating. So we cannot give a precise date because it's up to humanity to get rid of the deep state, So the Galactic Federation of Worlds is working with white hats. It's the Earth Alliance. And since the start of the 1950s, they've created this program of technological cooperation, Solar World and Fleet, for instance, operations of clearing the bodies from Earth, but also infiltration. And this is working slowly. And you have many organizations, dark organizations, that are collapsing because infiltrators from the good guys have been replacing bad guys. And the world is changing slowly until one day the bad people will be only a few and they will be overwhelmed and it will be their end. So it is a process. So I could not give a date, but it's before the end of the decade for sure.
Yeah, this really kind of leads to a quandary for me personally, trying to understand, what is it that I support in terms of full disclosure. I think releasing all of the technology, the information about secret space programs, releasing all of the health technologies, the healing modalities that have been suppressed, releasing all of the suppressed patents that have been held up in the United States and elsewhere. I would say all these things need to be done straight away. But these other things that we've been talking about, like clones and synthetic AI beings that have infiltrated society, that respected people that are maybe preachers or bishops or charismatic individuals may actually be controlled by some of these synthetic beings, or might be synthetic beings themselves. I mean, I could imagine that would create a lot of chaos. And so I imagine that would be the sort of thing you would want to hold off and like try and slowly raise people's awareness to know that, hey, as a society, we've been infiltrated, and sure, there's a lot of good guys here, but there's some bad ones, and and they are very good at manipulating, and they're very deceptive. And your charismatic preacher at your local church or mega church might in fact be one of these things. So that sort of thing, I imagine, we probably want to disclose a little bit later down the track.
Yes, and for instance, take the medbeds. They are mass produced at the moment on the moon and other facilities. If they would implement the medbeds straight away, like now, the deep state still in power would destroy them. They wouldn't make this happen because big pharma is still a thing, They would kill the operation straight away. So you don't want all these medbeds to be destroyed. So they're waiting that there's no more threats. That's the best example, I think. Patents of free energy, it won't come for the moment from the government releasing patents, but from individual people who work in their corner to build new technologies, but not patent them, because anyone who come up with a new technology that creates free energy, do not patent it, because it will be blocked for the moment. Make it public. But because once it's public, it cannot be patented anymore, and it's protected, and anyone can build it. So do that. So these technologies, for the moment, to protect them, they are withheld by the Galactic Federation, also to talking especially the medbeds or anti-gravity things, to protect them not to be destroyed by the deep state. But instead, they are still implementing them, but in a very, very clever way, and it's very clever. Catastrophic disclosure will happen, but waiting for this day, they are slowly bridging to this moment by, for instance, having Space Force, developing space fleet. Oh, we are going to create a new space fleet. Oh, look, we came up with these anti-gravity technologies. So now, hey, the TR3Bs are a thing. Wow, we have anti-gravity now. So they are going to pass this into as if it was created now, to bridge the reality of the secret space programs to the present, to the moment when the catastrophic disclosure will happen. And when the catastrophic disclosure will happen, people will be told the ugly truth. Hey, this existed since 1950s. We had this already. And there were ETs and there were black space programs. But by the time this catastrophic disclosure occurs, people will have been used to these technologies, and we will have advanced to the future a little bit more. So the bridge will be shorter. You know what I mean? So that's the part of the disclosure plan that I've been told. But Thoran said something a few weeks ago. He said, watch now for the next batch of disclosure. This won't be a show. This will be high military grades coming forward to testify about retroengineering and secret cooperation with ETs. So that should occur very soon.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because just recently, this last week, there was a new director of the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office appointed, and unlike the previous director, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who was like a gatekeeper, and he wasn't really supporting the whistleblowers, he was more or less, sidelining them and preventing them from their testimonies from going public. That there's a new director, and he's from the NSA, and that's very interesting, because the NSA has a long history of being involved in tracking UFOs and kind of like also runs an interstellar trading base out of Antarctica. So, I mean, I don't know, I might be asking too much, but would this new appointment as the director of the Arrow office. Would that be part of what Thorhan was saying, that we're entering a new phase, and part of that is going to be more whistleblowers coming forward, and that this Arrow office is now going to switch from being a gatekeeper, sidelining them and preventing their testimonies coming forward, to now actually helping them?
This would fit totally with the plan of infiltration that they've been implying. Thorhan didn't tell me exactly about this person. I think it's for a strategic reason. But what I'm seeing is that it can really fit with the infiltration operation, that in these organizations that have in the past worked at withholding the disclosure, the infiltrated people have reached higher position, and they are coming forward to reverse the narrative of the organization and the work of the organization. And so this new appointed director, that could really fit this.
Okay, so I want to go over to the encounter that you had with the Kuldasi on the planet Neptune, and I know you're writing a book about it. So, you want to tell us about the Kuldas?
Yes, so I'm working on finalizing a book that recounts an adventure, a true story I had in 2022 when I was taken to Neptune by my contact Thorhan, and we met with a species living there, the Kuldasi, who are beings who are related to the Trappist one, Tengri Tengri. And so I recount this story, and I was taken to a parallel dimension on a planet that's called Koldas. And on this planet, I stayed actually 2 months, and I was brought back afterwards in the past to the point when they took me. On this planet, I learned a lot about the nature of the universe, about who we are, and it is about a quest to the origins of creation, the origin of time, and also consciousness. I learned a lot among these people, and I'm not telling too much, but it's also a quest I have lived with 2 companions of mine. And it was a quest for the 3 of us, personal quest. And we had to achieve this personal quest, spiritual quest, in order to have access to a higher knowledge. And it's adventures on this planet and links we made with these people. And that's what it will be about.
Wonderful. Well, this interview is going to be coming out on September 12, so the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection is going to be in 2 weeks from when this comes out. So, that we're going to be together there. We're going to be there with a lot of other people, Jean-Charles Moyen, and JP is also going to be making an appearance. So, what does this event mean for you? In attending? This is the 3rd one that you've attended. So what does it mean for you?
For me, it's a pleasure and honor. It's a privilege to be there on stage in front of a community of starseeds, people who know they have a connection with the stars, with extraterrestrials in different ways. They may not be starseeds. They may be also people who have been abducted, who have had contact with aliens, people we feel connected with the outer space. And every time I'm here, I'm very moved by the frequency of everyone there, and sharing new technologies and new information with these people is for me an extraordinary moment, So I will speak about the technologies. I always speak a little bit of technology and science stuff, but the technologies that are linked with consciousness and the way we can rethink the nature and the structure of reality.
I always enjoy going to these GSIC events. For me, it's amazing how much the speakers integrate and how much we are like part of a family. And I think you're talking about the fractal nature of the universe. I think it's the same thing for the audience, that it's a gathering of the star families. This is where you come and find your star families. So this is a great event to be able to come, attend in person, to meet your star family. Or now, this year, I think for the first time, they're going to do a live streaming of the whole event. So you can watch all the sessions through live streaming. So yeah, that's at galacticspiritualinformers.com. So anything else you want to say, Elena, about, I know you've got webinars coming up and you have a weekly Star Nations news, which I think is incredible for catching up with events. So you want to tell people about those and anything else?
Well, I'm working on several books at a time, but you can just keep up with my work on my website, elenadanaan.org, and also my YouTube channel, where every Monday I deliver Star Nation News, which is an update on the information I got by my extraterrestrial contacts. I need to precise, I do not do channeling, and I'm even fighting against not recommending it anyways. It's all information I got by my communicator or by physical encounters. So it's quite groundbreaking news every week. So you can follow that if you're interested to know what's going on in the galaxy. And once a month, I'm having a Q&A webinar of 3 hours. So it's all on my website. You have all the links.
And that's elenadanaan.org. So I want to thank you, Elena. It's wonderful to be able to get this really accurate information on the different ET species that are out there, that are interacting with our planet. It's very, very important that people listen carefully and exercise discernment, and you really do a great job in helping people develop discernment. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.